but still can't do it. Yeah! You know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes! It's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie! Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay! Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay! Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsies.
I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide.
You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay.
It's okay! Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsies.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
Wait, was it yeah or woo?
I think it was woo.
Okay, say woo with us.
Woo!
Better.
You think I'm an ignorant savage?
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing overhead. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard, but for love, the fight's too hard. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again. Another epic day here in 100 days of Rootkit. I hope y'all are excited. We are back to our normal setup. All right. So it might be a little rough for me because we're gonna get a little adjusted here back to our normal setup. But we're back, normal setup, ready to chug along on our adventure here. I hope y'all are hyped. All right. Hopefully the music ain't too loud. It kind of looks loud. We messed up our timing a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna make an awkward transition here to our chill music. All right, awkward transmission. All right, look, a little rough on the first day back. All right, or back to the normal setup. All right, you feel me? All right, let me go and pull up chat here. I gotta get my grounds. Matthew, what do you want to go by, buddy? Come on, man. You gotta wait until I can react. You prematurely did the donation, man. Thank you so much for the donation of $2. You're helping the mission thrive and chug along forward. Let me see here. Let me turn that down a little bit. That was a little loud. All the settings are a little messed up, so please leave a comment in the chat if something is messed up, audio's too loud, music is too loud, whatever it is. Let me go ahead just for you, Matt. All right, just for you. I'm looking at you. All right, just for you. All right. Is he gonna do it? Well, this just became awkward. Okay, never mind then. I wanted to replay the thing, but it's not replaying it. Never mind. Never mind, Matt. All right, hey, I was gonna do a little dance and have it replay, but hold on, let me try it one more time. Oh, there we go. Let's go. How do you want me to dance? Let's do some dabbing, shall we? Oh, whoa! $2. All right, every dollar counts. All right, every dollar matters. Let us finish up our intro. Matt has distracted us enough. So let us continue on here. If you guys don't know, we are Rootkit, a nonprofit organization here in the US of A. I think the site is down right now. Too many Russian bots. All right, too many Russian bots. What can I say? All right, it happens occasionally. So we are a nonprofit here in the US of A. Don't go to college. Don't go to any other boot camp. All right, you're already watching. You're already here right now. Continue watching all 100 days so you can become certified. All right, get our comp sci degree. Not a degree, sorry, cert, and get a job. It's really that simple. Everything's laid out, all free, except for the certifications exam, except it is free if you're watching right now, which you are. Look at that. On top of that, we have free giveaways where we give away a bunch of merch every single week. So if you want to win some merch, you got to go to our site, which is currently down right now. So I'll fix that. Don't worry about that. Go to our site, and there's a link in the Discord if you go over somewhere in the Discord here, over into the announcement section. You'll see that we spam the link for the week 13 giveaway, so make sure you click on that when the site is back up, and we'll remind you tomorrow, so you can enter to win some free merch. All right, we got a couple days left, all right, for free merch, and I think probably on day 100 we're gonna wrap together the free giveaways we give for you guys participating in chat, because I know we didn't do the end of what is it, March one? So we're gonna wrap it up with the April one. So we'll do 2, all right? And we gotta give, maybe we'll do more. We got a lot of sweaters, extra sweaters to give away. By a lot, I mean like, maybe like 5 or 6, all right? 5 or 6, 7 extra sweaters. So if no one's donating and claiming those sweaters, then, hey, we're gonna start chucking them, because I don't need them all, all right? I don't need them all. So if you want to help support us, because we are a nonprofit and you want to help avoid your taxes, donate today. All donations are 100% tax deductible, because again, we're a nonprofit here in the US of A. Only applies for US citizens. Depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards, like our Epic stickers, our collab t-shirt, and our Epic sweater. All donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations, and depending on how much you donate, we can hit certain rewards, like teaching for 24 hours straight, shaving my head here live on stream, and the one no one wants to see except for mom. Let's disappoint my mom together, all right? Shave my beard here live on stream, all right? No one wants to see that, all right? Alrighty, yeah, so those of you that are joining and are new, you might see me using Edge and might think it's a little cringe. It is a little cringe, alright? We're doing some experimentation because that's what you should be doing 24/7 as a dev. You should just be trying things just to try things, alright? Alright, so we are continuing today with our journey with the game server. Alright, we're making epic progress. We're showing how all of these things work together. The threading works together. We haven't showed about the deadlock yet and the race condition yet. Don't worry, we're going to get to that one here soon. Additionally, we did finally see the error I was trying to produce that one day with, which is the port issue, where basically if your program hasn't fully closed and cleaned up, the port will still be reserved, so you may have to start your server again a little bit later. All right, sometimes it's immediately after, sometimes it's like a minute, who knows. All right, it depends on your operating system. All right, before we chug along, are there any comments, questions, or concerns in the chat before we start here? I didn't see anyone turn in anything from the other day. I am, as always, in the events voice chat. So if you are a Patreon or Discord premium member, you can join right in here and start chatting away. All right, you don't have to type, you can just go ahead and chat. And I know Discord released these new things. I didn't look at that. That's pretty neat. The little flowers. All right, so shall we chug along here? So we left off yesterday with our server. We finished multiple client connections, making a map and displaying the map. Now we're on to another awkward intersection, and you'll find these constantly. All right, you'll always run into these chicken and the egg scenarios, and it's fine. Just go with something. All right, don't get caught up. Just go forward with something, make progress, and when you hit a barrier, pivot. Right, pivot. It's the only way you can chug forward. So on here, we're in kind of an awkward scenario. So we cleaned up all our code yesterday and did an organize it all in folders. Again, you can do this differently. This is just a way that I want to show off. You can go about doing it. All right. This is not the best way. It's not the worst way. It is just a way that you can go about doing it. All right. So in here, we are creating the map, sending it off. Now we need to figure out how we want to manage players. We need to kind of make it so the connections are associated with players, kind of fine tune it, because we're kind of just throwing stuff together. And we kind of showed off our rough proof of concept, right? We have a server, we have clients that can connect, multiple clients can connect at any single time. The proof of concept is basically done. Now it's time for us to kind of be a little bit more serious, focus, go back and think from the previous days. What are you supposed to do? Classes, all right, classes, using multiple files, functions, all right, start incorporating those in order to modularize your code and to make it all clean and organized. And yeah, that's right, dry. You nailed it. You nailed it. I knew you would. So I think yesterday that's why today's episode, I guess, is called player management. We decided that we want to do the player management class first before we make the player class, because we want to be able to manage who is connecting, how many people have connected, and what is their associated ID per se that shows up on the map. Because right now we have it so the map, if we go to our server, the map is generated all with zeros, and when a new person connects, this is also why it's very important to know at least some of the shortcuts here in VS Code. Some people go ham on the shortcuts. All right, I'm like middle of the road person. All right, I like some shortcuts. I like doing stuff manually. Again, if you hold control right here, now since we have here all the files hidden away in folders, it's kind of a pain to go through and open everything up and find what you want. The quicker way to do it, again, hold down control, the control key on your keyboard, and now your functions will become clickable links. When we click on it, bam, we didn't have to go searching for it. I didn't even remember where we put this. All right, doesn't matter, we just got to it right here, right now. So very useful. Make sure you are using it. So if we look here, every time a player connects, we're just going to make that random spawn point -1. But if 1,000 people connect, then it's kind of awkward because they're all going to be -1. They're all going to be associated with the same player. All right, -1 sure doesn't look pretty like we said before, but this is what a server is essentially sending you, and it's the job of the client to render it and make it look pretty. All right, whether it's a 2D, 3D game, whatever. The client job is to make it pretty. Servers to send raw data. So we need to modify this to manage all of the players connecting to our server. All right, we typically refer to them as the clients connecting to our server, but there's, you know, a player attached to the client. So let's go about doing that. Step one, let's make a file called player management. All right, we may not know what to do exactly in all these steps, but we do know we need to make a file at least, right? So this is definitely going to be for the server only. So in our libs folder, we definitely want to put this in server only because there's no reason why the client, you know, needs this library. So in here, we're going to make a new one, and we'll call this player management.py, and we're off to a great start right now. All right, now let's think, right? Because that's your job as a dev, is to think. Right? Think about how we want to go about constructing our little house here. So if we think player management, this needs to be kind of like a observer, a watcher. Every time someone joins, we want some data to be incremented. We want to make sure we're using only unique values for their number. And maybe that's just a good enough starting place right now. All right, so we want player management to be some type of class object that will sit, listen, and keep track of all players, and then keep track of their IDs. So how do we know potentially if, well, I guess we can start here. Let's go ahead and just make the class player management. There we go. Whoops, that's the wrong one. And we'll go ahead and do a def in it. Perfect. So if we think about it a little bit, what is super unique? This function is running on a thread. So that means every time a client connects, there's going to be a thread associated to them. So each one of those threads that are associated would technically be one-for-one for clients. So what we could do here is have it so the player management also it's a part of its job technically, but it will be managing all of the threads. Because if you look at our logic here, specifically in this while loop on the server, you might notice that every person that connects is called C, client C. We accept the connection, all right, and they are accepted. What if we had 10 people connect at the same time? Well, it will handle all of it. It will spin each one off as a new thread, but this C variable will get completely replaced. And additionally, this T variable is going to get completely replaced, which means we're going to lose our, what we can call a handler on the connection and on the thread. So every time someone connects, we kind of establish it, make this thread, and throw it off into the ether and say, run my child, be free. And they're completely free, they're running. We have no way to control these children. So the player management would allow us to keep a list where we can append each one of these values to the list, so we can track all of the connections, who is connected, what's the status of the connection, and what the current IDs of everything is. All right, so let's go about doing that, shall we? So in here, we're going to want to init our player management with some values in here, and maybe this is going to be for all of the connections. Did I spell that right? Connections. And let's go ahead and make this a list, shall we? So this connection list can be set up to do multiple things. Maybe we have this connection list set up so it handles the stores the connection and the thread for every single connection that's coming on board. So it would be empty like this, but when we were to append, interesting, it's already trying to write our stuff. What it's going to look like is we're going to have this as a list of a list, and every new connection is going to have a client, a thread, and potentially we could make the ID in here also. All right, so that will represent one connection that is going on that hasn't been closed completely. So we want connections. We also, do we need to, we can have it so it's a function that tells us how many people are connected at any given time. We need some tracker for the ID. So self dot ID incrementer. Should we call it ID incrementer, or should we just call it like next ID? This potentially would be a good item for a getter or a setter per se. All right, a getter or setter per se, because you can also potentially make this into a function, because every time we want to get a new ID, we want this to be completely unique. And how do we make it completely unique? We can just automatically, we want negative values for every player, so we can automatically just decrement it one value every single time. Now, we can make a function that we call every single time, or we could use getters or setters. So you don't need to use getters or setters, but let's go ahead and use them so we can see them again. It's been a little while. So let's see them again in action. So let's go ahead and make what is it called? Property. And this property is going to be, oh, absolutely beautiful. There we go. Just auto wrote everything for us there. It wants double underscores. Next ID is what we want it to be called. So this is our getter. So every time we get this value, it's going to return this variable. All right. Except we want to change it. So every time you get this value, it's going to change it. All right. It's going to change it. So we're going to make it so it's, oh, absolutely beautiful. It's like the AI is listening. It knows. It's already sentient. Is it on the stream right now, or one of you guys, one of you viewers right now, teaching it? All right. So this is pretty much what we want. I guess we don't really need a setter because we can just do it right here. So every time someone wants to view this value, it's going to be auto decremented 1, and it will always become another negative value lower. We can go and see this in action again. If you want to program out 500 lines in one go, you can do that. It's more and more common the further along you get in your career, but when we're at the beginner steps, you don't have to do that. You can write 5 lines of code and then test it. All right, so let's go ahead and test and see if this even works. All right, because it's been a little while. So all we want to do is, again, we could set this up multiple ways to do our testing. Maybe an easy way here would be at the beginning of our main function. Let's just go and throw in that exit. And right here, let's go ahead and we got to import our class here. So we're going to import from libs.server .player management, import player management. All right, let's go ahead and make a player manager. So we'll call that a PM equals player management. This needs to be capital, and I think this one's supposed to be capital too. All right, so now we made one, and on here, let's just go ahead and print that ID, which is going to be PM dot, there we go, next ID. All right, except we don't want to print it once, we want to print it multiple times. Now, if this works, this first one should be how we have this logic set up. It will be -2, -3, and -4. That's what we should see on the screen. So let's go ahead and try running this. Let's cd into the folder. And let's do Python. Why did I have exe right there? Oh, look at that. Look at that. And we got exactly what I said. -2, -3, -1. Every time we get this variable and want to view it, since we're using a custom getter, it will automatically be decrementing it every time. So now we know we will always get a unique ID, at least in this sense. Sure, if you want to really be that way, yeah, later on we might run into some issues, especially when we're saving and reloading, but look, baby steps, right? One bit at a time. Is there some way I can find the code for this so I can follow along? Yes, if you are in the supporters chat, pull up the Where's the Discord at? There we go. If you're in the supporters chat, I did drop it the other day. I guess I need to update it because I didn't drop it from the other day. Let me go ahead and drop it right now because I have it right here. There we go. So people in the supporters chat, there you go. You already got it. Anyone that wants to join along, and if you haven't already, there is a free trial for your Discord. What do you call it? Right here, if you go on the server subscriptions, there is a 1 week free trial for the bit. So if you do want to get access to supporters chat, you can for 1 week for free 99. So this might be a great opportunity for you to go about doing that. All right, so this is a good start, right? This is a good start. So we got auto incrementing IDs, so that way when the player connects and displays on the map, they won't be interfering with any other player. You'll see a unique ID for that player. So we know this works right now. Before we delete all this, let's see if we want to test anything else. We have connections, and we want connections to be added. Now we want connections. We don't really want people to add connections directly. This is a general rule of thumb for classes. Now, again, a rule of thumb doesn't mean it's the law. There are no laws in programming. It's just a general rule of thumb. You don't want people appending things to your classes, like the arrays that your classes have, directly. You want them always interfacing through some type of middleman, like a function. So let's go ahead and make a function here for adding items to the connection. So let's say def close. This thing, look, I'm telling you guys, I mean, you guys have been watching the last couple of days, right? This is pretty good. That's all I gotta say. It's pretty good, all right? If you can cough up the $20 a month for it, it's not bad. So add connection is a great function for us to have here, and we're going to be adding these new connections over to our connection array. Now we want to modify this a little bit. This isn't exactly what we want, but we do need the connection itself, which is it a socket? I thought we typed it earlier. Let me go ahead and remove this code here. So in here we can see S is a socket. Client is going to be a socket object. Okay, maybe it is a socket. I think it's on the client thread we typed it out to. Okay, so it is a socket. I just want to make sure that typing is correct. So that way we can get, again, you don't need the typing, but look, just as a review, if you don't have the typing, it will work just fine. But if I do connection dot, I'm not going to get any drop down menu. If I have the typing here, because you need to, it doesn't know what type of variable this is supposed to be. And now we do the dot. These fails, all right. Connection dot. Wait, go away. There we go. Wait, okay. You know what? Ignore that example. The drop down will be correct, all right? It will come up and it will be correct, all right? Kind of failed there because I think the Copilot is messing with our drop down menu. So we don't want the connection only here. We also want the thread, all right? Oh, that's so beautiful. I think I'm gonna cry. There we go. So we're gonna want the thread that we are creating. So we want the socket, the thread, and I think that's it actually, because we also want a unique ID for this connection, but I think we might automatically just get it inside of here. So we're gonna pass into the array a connection, the thread, and we're gonna want the ID. So that's the big question up next is we're tracking the connections here, but how do we pass the IDs to it? We could pass the ID to it right here. The reason why I ask it like that is it may be nice and important for us later on to easily be able to access what the ID for any connection is. So connection number 1, what ID does it have? Because, you know, what if you're running this server for 100 days? People are connecting, reconnecting, leaving, you know, their ID might be, you know, -1000 something. we don't really know that just by here in the manager by default. So should we, I think we'll do it this way. All right, not saying this is the way to do it, but this is a way to do it. All right, we're gonna have it return a integer, which is going to be the ID. All right, which is going to be the ID. So we're going to have it ID equals perfect. It's like it hears me. It's kind of scary. And in here we're going to put ID, and right here we're going to return ID perfect. So what's happening right now is they're going to send us the connection and the thread. All right, that C and that T, that's from over here. Now, once they send us that C and that T from right here, we're going to add it. I guess that's kind of an issue right here because they're going to make the connection, but we need the thread, but the thread needs to know what ID it's supposed to have right here, because this is where we got to pass the ID so the thread knows what ID it is. So we're going to need to basically output what thread it is beforehand, and then let them modify. So maybe we can do dictionaries handle numbers. Hold on real quick. Let's see. We might be able to use a dictionary, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now if a dictionary can have a value that's just a number. So if we put -1 right here, I think I can, but we want to test stuff real quick to see if it works. So now if we say ASDF, ASDF negative quotes -1 and press enter. Okay, so we could do it that way. Maybe we'll do it that way just to get it over with. All right, so let's do it that way. Good idea, Matt. Thank you for suggesting that. Matt's sitting over there like, oh, what? All right, so let's change this from array to a dictionary instead. All right, just so we don't have to dwell on the current issue of the ID right now and the disassociation between the ID and the thread. Let's just do it this way so we can handle it. So we're going to do add connection. Add connection is pretty much going to be the same except for connection in here. We're going to have this so it's in dictionary format. This time we're not going to return the an ID anymore. Instead, we're going to get the ID, and that's going to be string ID in here, and that will be equal to, and we don't need the ID here because we can get the ID out of the out of this guy right here. We can just throw it in here anyways. Why not? Doesn't harm anything. All right, so now we can track it here. If we go over to server, I'll review everything that just happened also, just in case you're a little confuzzled. All right, so let's do player manager, because we need to make the PM. So let's make the PM right here equals to player management. All right, and right here we want our player management to create a new ID for us. So next ID. So our D is going to be this, and then we're going to have the ID passed along to our thread, but then we want the player manager to bring it back up. There we go. We want the player manager to have all this stuff, so it's going to have the client, the thread, and the ID. It's going to be added to the player manager, so it's going to know what this is, and this should be good. This should be beautiful. All right, this should work. So there's only one way then to try it out. So let's go and try this out. And after we try it out, let's review real quick. I think we'll run into an error right now because client thread isn't expecting 3 arguments, but we're passing 3 arguments right here. So let's go to our client thread real quick, and let's make it so it takes the ID, and that's going to be a value int. And we don't want everything to be -1 anymore. We want to be of ID. So we could also modify this to print everything that's in the project manager, so every single connection that's came through. But I think an easier way to test this is if we test multiple clients, we should see the ID change, right? So let's just do an easier test for right now. So again, we're gonna run this test real quick, and then I'll go through and explain everything that just happened, just in case that was too high speed, 300 million miles an hour. So let's go ahead and run the server. Server is running. Open up a new terminal here, and let's go ahead and, what is this? What? It works? Okay, I'm confused. Is that, oh, what? One is Python 11, the other one's Python 10. All right, Python, we want to run the client. So if everything, oh, I got a CD. If everything worked here correctly, then this should have an ID of -2. And the next one should be -3, etc., etc. So let's go and run this. We also have to send a message, and we see absolutely nothing. Let's do this again, and we see absolutely nothing. So something is a little bit awry right now. Kind of. Oh, it's the client logic, right? It's a good thing we have these printouts on the server side. So we actually see everything is 100% golden. Perfect. Exactly what we want. All right. As you can see, it's sending the raw data of this array to the user that first time, which was client number 1, which has a value of -2. And then the next client that connected has an ID of -3. Our client that renders the game here is a little messed up. To fix that, we would have to go to our client library, because we have that hard-coded. If we go to our map renderer and we look in here, we have that if statement that's specifically looking for a -1. So instead, just for ease of use right now, I think we're just going to change this logic. So if the tile is less than 0, we're just going to render the string version of that tile. There we go. So this will just show up the what do you call it? The actual number itself, or it should theoretically. There we go. So we see -4 right there. So now when we rerun, we should see -5. There it is. Rerun, -6, -7. Perfect, perfect. So this is progress for a game. So what just happened? What just happened? Great question. Let's do a quick review and talk about what's happened. I guess right before we go into that, are there any questions? Should I ask that after we do the review? I'll ask it right now and after the review. Are there any questions or anything specifically you want me to go over during the review process? Milkshakes. I'm gonna wait another 30 seconds or so, see if there's any questions before we continue on here with explaining what just happened. Just seeing if there's any questions before we get into the explanation. I don't see any questions. If you do have questions, go ahead and drop them in or drop into the events chat. So let's go ahead and continue on, shall we? What just happened? Great question. Player management. Again, player management is just supposed to be an object. We're only really supposed to have one of them ever. And it's just the manager. All right? It's just the manager that sits there, and their job is just to tell people what to do and keep track of people. All right? Nothing too intense, nothing too hard. All right? They just kind of lay back on their lay back on their chair. Oh yeah, buddy. Yep. Your name Bob, right? Yeah. Oh, it was Carl? Whatever. Bob, go do something. All right, thanks. All right. PM, not project manager. A player manager, all right? So this is just going to keep track of our connections and give us unique IDs every single time. We're using our getter, our custom getter here, to make a variable called next ID. And every time you call this variable or this property, it's going to automatically decrement its value by 1. So it's going to be unique in the negative position every single time. Additionally, we have a function here which is going to take the connection, the thread, and some type of ID, which is a integer value, and it's just going to add it to this dictionary that we have. This dictionary is going to store the ID as the key, and the value is going to be the connection, the thread, and the ID. Currently all in tuple. I think we can just keep it in a tuple, right? That shouldn't run into any issues. Sure, we'll keep it here until we run into issues. Then we'll change it back to a list. So that's what's happening here. Again, remember, your dictionaries are key values. Technically, lists are key values also, because your key would be what position is it, what index is it. But the great thing for dictionaries is you can have more unique values like strings, right? Well, they're all strings. So you can have potato is your unique key that gives you some data. So in this case, we're using the ID, but we have to make it into a string because, again, the dictionary needs a string. On the server side, at the very beginning of our server starting, and I guess we should put this after the print statement here, we need to make this player manager. So when we make this player manager, it's going to be called PM. Now, we don't really do anything with it until our connection loop. For our connection loop, every time we spin up a thread, we need to make a custom ID that will be associated with that thread. So we're going to make that ID beforehand, then pass it on. Once the thread is created, then we're going to add this connection, this thread, and the ID we made, all to add connection. Now, a challenge for you guys would be threads, like we reviewed before, and processes will have their own unique ID attached to them on creation. So technically, you could use the thread ID instead of the ID here. And you should be good for the most part, but also you lose a lot of your customization that you could potentially do, because we could do a lot with this custom ID that we throw up. And then the last thing that we did real quick was on the client. On the client thread, we made it so now that we're passing the ID to the client thread function, we want that unique ID to be displaying on our map. So instead of having this hard coded to -1, we change this to ID. And to fix the rendering issue, we went to our client and to our map renderer in the client and changed the if statement here. So instead of it looking specifically for -1s, we change it for anything that's a negative value. Just put the raw number in there for now. All right, just put the raw number in there. We'll deal with this later, right? It's a problem for another day. Any questions on that before we chug on with any additions? I don't see any questions, so let's go ahead and chug on, shall we? Let's review our README. Now, we wanted to make a player management class, which we have successfully done. So let's go ahead and put an X there. And we should definitely do a git commit. So what branch are we on right now? If we do a git status, we can see what branch we're currently on, which we probably should have made a new one. We're on base map, so a little bit of a boo-boo here. Don't worry. We're gonna act like we knew what we were doing. All right, we're gonna go to quickly make a new branch and directly pivot to that one from this one. So we're gonna do a git checkout tact B, and we're gonna go to player feature / player management. Press enter. There we go. Git push. We'll git push that up, and whoops. Git push. There we go. Now we need to do a git add. That is wrong. Git add all. Git status on that. Just make sure. we need to go up one folder, git add all. There, not a git directory. We went too far up. Game server, git add all. Sorry, y'all. There we go. That one worked. Git status. Whew, that was a little rough. All right. So if you do ever, we've gone over this before, but if you ever do get this error, it means the directory you're in, just like it says, is in a git repo. So if you look right here, I went too far up. I was in the 100 days of rootkit folder. I should have been in the game server folder. So that's why we need to go back down. Got everything added. It looks like everything I want added is added. Specifically, I'm doing the git status for two reasons. Sanity check on this, but also we do have the PyCache folders generating since I think it just auto does it for Windows specifically because it wasn't happening on the Mac. We don't want these to get pushed up at all. All right, they are grayed out, which means our git ignore is working, but I just want to make sure. You know, it's our first time seeing these, so I want to make sure. Sanity check. All right, let's go ahead and do a git commit here, and we'll say that we added a basic player management. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. All right, I just want to write player management system. Save. Close that out, and we'll go ahead and do a git push. Now the remote server is all synced up, and we can continue chugging along. Now, we're going to be proper this time, and before we move on to the player class, which is what we need to do next, yeah, because this would be probably coming back to the game server. Before we get to the player class, let's do what we're supposed to be doing, which I keep forgetting. All right, never mind, I don't keep forgetting. I know exactly what I'm doing. This is all on purpose, all right? This is the pro gamer move. It's more true than you know. Oh, it's more true than you know. All right, so let's go over to GitHub here and find our little repo, and we're gonna do some more mock pull requests, so that way we can go about cloning branches more proper. All right, you can make the branches like how we did, where effectively, so I mean, this goes back to Git, and we talked about it in Git. Let me go ahead and pull up my beautiful drawing here. We have main, right? That's not the big one. We have main, which you no, you never touch. All right, only good things go in there. That's for going straight to prod. We have the dev branch, right, which you can mess around with. And the dev branch, you want to make a bunch of different branches off of it for all of the little things that you do, like we're kind of doing right now. For every like feature is what we're calling it. Now, you don't have to follow that naming scheme. You can do whatever you want, but that's the proper way. Now, when you spin off into, you know, one of these sub branches, I'm just call this sub branch 1. You should git commit like we did, then push up to dev, then change back to the dev branch, and from the dev branch, spawn a new branch. All right, that's what we're about to do. What we just did was not this proper way. Instead, what we did is we were working on this branch 1, and then we cloned it over here to this branch 2 directly, and then we pushed this up. All right, not the best. All right, not the best, but you know, you do what you gotta do. All right, no rules, regulations, XYZ. All right, no code and police coming here. So let's see. Game server, git status. We want to do a pull request. That's right. So let's go up here. You're going to see on your repo, once you push it up, you're going to see it will automatically try to do a setup for your pull request here. I'm going to do it more of a manual way. So if we click on this right here, you'll see pretty much all that button does will auto set up at least this first one. We don't want to push this to main. Only dev should be going to main. So we're going to go and go to pull request directly. New pull request. We want to merge our player management into our dev branch. All right, player management into dev branch. I'll show here all the differences. All right, so we'll create that pull request. You'll say what you did here. You'll put the reviewers, so whoever's in charge of you, so they can review it. You'll create the pull requests. They'll go about reviewing it. If you have automated tests, they'll automatically happen here. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, you'll figure it out at your first job. All right. And then when everyone is happy, typically, like we've always said, your reviewers or whoever's in charge of you will be pressing the green button to get it submitted and added and pushed to dev. But we have no one in charge of us, so we're just going to press the green button ourselves. All right, so we're going to go and merge that in, and whammo bammo, we're merged in. All right, it's just like a git merge, but with more steps. All right, with more steps. So since we've done that, we wanted to go ahead and do a git pull to get all of that updated stuff. And you can see here there's been an update on dev. So let's go ahead and git checkout to dev. And let's do one more git pull here on dev just to make sure we get all of that goodness. All right. So from here, from dev, this is where we're going to want to make that player branch. So let's go ahead and do our git checkout tag B feature / player. There we go. We can go and do a git push just to make sure that branch is all synced up. Go ahead and say git push, copy, pasta, enter, whammo, bammo. We have done it. All right, we have done it. We're ready to move on with our item here. All right, with our item here. Now, you'll notice that you kind of move forward. Let me pull up the chat here. Are there any questions, I guess, before we go forward? I mean, that should have been pretty much review for you guys in regards to Git. Hopefully. You made it this far. It should be review. Alright, so we got to do the player class now. Now you'll notice this is a reoccurring thing sometimes. Again, it depends on how you want to go about it. The more pro you are, the more you're able to think ahead and, you know, handle writing 500 lines of code at once before testing anything. So you may notice initially here, this is where you should be having your player class and make the player class and then integrate it. For us, doesn't matter. You're learning. So I expect you to be programming most likely this way, where you're going to be like, I want a player management. You make the player management and you're like, oh, I also had a player to do. It looks like my player would be this thing, right? Your player would be this thing, and the manager would be managing this thing. You're right, right? You're right. Your player is the connection, the thread, and the ID. That is the player's ID. We haven't really associated with the term player yet because it's called a connection in here in the player management. But now that we've moved on to the next step, you can kind of be like, oh, okay, it looks like I got a evil thing, rewrite some of my code. That's normal, right? That's normal, especially for when you're learning, right? So just because you know, going down your checklist and you find that you have to rewrite something doesn't necessarily mean you did a bad job the first time. It just means you didn't really think about like your upcoming plots and how they might mesh together. But it doesn't really matter, right? We got it working. We just got to take a step backwards to take another 10 forward. But we got it working, and that's all that matters. So don't get obsessed about perfection. All right? Wait, we can't check that off yet. We haven't made it yet. So let's go to the server, because the server is going to have this player class. So let's go ahead and make the player.py. In here, let's go and make the class player. All right, and our player class is going to have a def in it. And in here, it's going to... I was kind of joking earlier, but this is kind of sick. I'm not gonna lie. Like, like you see what I'm seeing, right? It's like, what? It must be reading player management file and seeing the object there, and then inferring, but it's inferring from the add connection. I don't know. Yeah, good. Hey, AI assistant, great job. All right, don't kill me. Good job. Please, everyone. I'll serve you well. Please. All right. Yeah, let's continue on. All right. All right. So these are exactly what we needed for our player, because again, like I said a little bit earlier, our player management here for add connection is technically supposed to be more like add player, and these 3 items that we're adding is the player itself, because this is player management. Player management should be managing all the players. It should know all the players it's in charge of, not the connections. That would be, you're not wrong, but the nomenclature, the naming you're using, the naming convention is a little confusing. So this is pretty much all we need. We want to change this init though, so it has ID, which is going to be a int connection, which is going to be the socket dot socket, and the, do I even need to, I think to make it well, no, we can just do it right here. And then we want thread, which is going to be our threading dot thread with a capital T. All right, and you'll see, of course, they're yelling at us because we didn't import these items. So let's go and import socket and import threading. There we go. Perfect. So now we got this all set up, and that's pretty much it. Now, some classes, sometimes that you write them, they won't really be long, complex, or anything like that. They might be very, very short, like this. All right. I'm trying to think right now. I'm pretty sure there's no way to make a quote-unquote interface or anything like that. That's effectively what we're kind of making here. Is it's not really, other languages like C# and TypeScript have these concepts called interfaces, which are effectively kind of like small classes in a very loose sense, which is purely for doing exactly what we have here. Not really, you don't add any functions or any other crazy functionality. It's pretty much just defining some variables that live under this name. So let's go to player management. We need to import our player into here, and I think this import is wrong. I think it's going to want us to do the full path. So let's go and do the full path prior to. And we want to change this connection to players, and this is going to be a dictionary, and inside this dictionary, let's see here, we want this to be a dictionary of, can I do stuff like this? Does that work? Expression, expected expression, or is it like, I'm gonna be honest, you guys, I don't do that much typing in Python. I don't think we can do that. Let's go and say this for now. We'll look into it later. So in here, we're going to want to add a connection. We'll take all of these items and we'll go ahead and, wow, there we go. Beautiful. Our little AI assistant did all the work for us for converting that. So we just want to make it so now that used to be connections dictionary, now is players dictionary, is now going to be equal to the player. All right, it's going to be equal to a player, not equal to the to just a random tuple. All right. Any questions on that? Any questions on that? While you guys ask questions, let's go ahead and just test it real quick, make sure all this is working. So let's go do Python and our server, and only one usage. Oh, do I have the server running right here? Yep, I do. So let's go ahead and terminal has no, okay, get out of here. No, you don't want to behave? All right, force quit everything. All right, let's go and cd into the game server, and let's go and do Python server. There we go. The server started. Let's go ahead and do Python client. Cd into the directory first. Cd into game, and then we do Python client. send some data, and it looks like everything is working and it's incrementing still. So it looks like we did our conversion correctly to this player object, right? Not complicated, all right? Arguably unnecessary, depending on, you know, who you are and how you want to go about things. I think it's better in the long run just because it's cleaner, right? Just because it's cleaner, but it's always totally up to you. So let's go ahead and end the server. I don't know why it keeps hanging. All right, let's go to the client here, and let's go ahead and do a git add all, git commit, and let's go ahead and say we added basic player and changed PM to use it. Perfect. That works for me. All right, git push, and we push that up. Now let's go back to our readme and let's think a little bit before we continue on. Is that everything we need to do with the player class? It may or it may not. Depends on exactly what actions you want a player to go about committing, being able to commit, etc., etc. There's also now the argument of this client thread. Should this even exist here in this client thread function, in this client thread file, or should it be a part of the player? All right, should it be a part of the player? And that's where you really start seeing the power of potentially thinking through this a little bit more, but you can only think through it in a more proper way if you do this, if you practice. Make sure you guys are practicing doing this outside of these classes, going down your own rabbit holes. If you want some challenges, ask for something. I will give you a one-liner prompt to make something, and it will be a challenge. Go figure it out. Go challenge yourself, all right? Because that's where you'll start understanding these concepts a little bit more and how you can stitch them together and how you like stitching them together. Because now you're going to see that this should now be a part of player. But that will also mess up potentially the logic we have here in our server. Now there's multiple ways we can go about this. One is pretty much keeping it exactly the same and having it so kind of player executes this and self-reports to player management. Or another way that you could do about it is have it so player management spins up new players itself, and then it has the logic for the player doing whatever it needs to do. You can do them both ways. Both will work. Both will work. One potentially is arguably better than the other, and that would be, at least for me, keeping it all in management, because the player management should be managing all the players and potentially the, you know, adding them to the list of people that have connected. But it's up to you, all right? It's totally up to you. So we're about to go on break. So while we're on break, I want you guys to kind of look over the code, think about it a little bit, how you would go about taking these next steps, and then judge it against the way I'm going to show we can take some of these next steps. I'm not saying, again, like I've been saying this whole project, we're not showing the most proper way to do all of this, but it's not the worst way. It is just a way to go about doing it, and that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters, unless you're on a project that is really needs thinking through. But again, why are you shouldn't be as a entry-level dev in such a important, thoughtful role. That should be your senior devs, and they should be showing you the light so you can eventually be the one thinking 20 steps ahead, all right, and having your big brain moments, all right, if you aren't already having your big brain moments. So I'll see you guys in 3 to 5 minutes, and we will continue the rodeo, all right? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again with one.
What is up, you guys? We are back at it again with 100 Days of Rootkit. Except this time, I'm going to be using my AI voice from Deception. If you haven't made an account yet on Deception, well, why? Go now. Make me say some questionable things.
Well, you heard it here first from myself, my AI self, alright? If you guys have not yet, alright, go make an account on our Deception platform so you can go have some fun with our AI voices. Now, if you're not aware, we did launch, and we've spammed quite a bit, our Deception platform over like a week or so ago. Where's Bing? Right, we launched our Deception platform, which allows you to utilize the powers of GPT and AI voice creation to auto-generate scripts, stories, whatever you want, and pair them immediately with AI voices. It's 100% free to start using right now, so make sure you go over and create an account today. Every single month, billing cycle month. So if you create an account today, technically you have a month until you get more free credits. So every single month you get free credits, all right, and they don't roll over. They start from the beginning. It's going to be 10K char generations for text gen and 1K for audio gen. 100% free. Use it month after month after month. 100% free. Go there now. Use it. We have a bunch of cool voices, and we're adding new ones almost. I can't say almost every day right now, but we're about to add new ones almost every single day in the upcoming days here. All right, and it's very cheap after that. I'm going to update the pricing on here so it kind of makes a little more sense to normal people, because it's kind of hard to fathom how cheap and beautiful this pricing is. But I digress. Additionally, we are a Rootkit nonprofit organization here in the US of A. Our site's a little broken right now due to probably Russian bots. All right, so I will get that up and running once again here soon. So make sure you go check out our site. Don't go to college. Don't go to any other boot camp. Go watch 100 Days of Rootkit. Wait, you're already here. You're already watching. Hey, you're already ahead of the curve. All right, continue watching and get certified. Everyone that's watching right now and that has interacted with us, so if you haven't put something in the chat, put something in chat right now so you can get a waiver to take the exam for free. All right, the exam typically is going to be, I mean, we haven't changed it right now, so it's technically for free on the site yet. Eventually, when I want to actually make some money, all right, we'll eventually start charging for something, I guess. All right, it's so use us right now so you can get certified and get a job. It's really that easy. If you want to help support us monetarily, because like I said, we're kind of burning money right now, all right? You can donate today. If you click the link in the description, or if you're on Twitch somewhere down below, you can go over to the site and you can donate. We are a nonprofit, so if you donate, it's 100% tax deductible. Depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our Epic stickers, our collab t-shirt, and our Epic Rootkit exclusive 100 Day of Rootkit sweater. So make sure you donate today. All donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. So that's pretty epic. You donate $1, it's like you're donating $2. Or if you're like Matt over here, he donates $2, it's like donating $4. All right. All matching donations come in at the end of the month, or I guess for us, it's going to be at the end of the 100 Days of Rootkit. And we have pillars along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my hair live on stream, and the one no one wants to see is shaving my beard. All right, no one wants to see that. All right, let's continue on. Make sure you guys make an account on here, all right? And let us know what you want us to add. We're about to add Twitch integration, all right? It won't be functional on ours because I don't want to be locked into Twitch, all right? So I'm not going to do partnership. But if you do have a Twitch account, you can set it up so this will be text-to-speech. Let us continue on here, shall we? So, we have our server here. And we have our player management, and we just made our player, and our players will be generated every time a new client comes in and connects, and it will be added to player management. We want to chug along and move our client thread function here into player. Now, the simple way of doing that is pretty much just copying, pasting, and moving it over, right? So we'd go over here to client thread. We're going to copy it, go to player. We'd paste it. We need to bring over these imports that we're missing. So we'd say import random, import pickle, And will it get the last one automatically for us? That is not the one. Close though. We need this bad boy. So we'll go ahead and paste that over, and now we have the last little items that we need for this client thread. We need to tab this up so it's a part of the class. Now again, this is the easiest way to do it. This is step one. This is not the way you want to really leave it though. So now if we go over to our server, all we did was move this over. So our server, instead of client thread, this now will be, are we importing player? So we're going to need to import player. So from player, import player, right? So now this is going to be player dot client thread. So this is completely moving it over. This is a very easy, quick, dirty way to do it. Again, I emphasize dirty. Let's go ahead and close the server. And let's launch a new server. So if we do Python here and we say server, you'll see the server starts perfectly normal. And I don't want to keep CDing and stuff, so I'm just going to click on client and click on H5 here. I thought we already had this set up. There we go. So that way we can just see our client connect. And there we go. Our client connected successfully to our new server. Everything is working fine, or else we would have seen it error out. And we didn't see it error out. So we know we are golden with our migration here. Again, this is the most basic form of the migration, and it's not using our objects and classes to the fullest potential they could unlock for us. So let's go about showing how we would utilize that. If we look over to our server here, you're going to see that our server section here is making a potentially the core components to a player here. The ID, the connection, the thread itself, and we're pretty much making these items and then shoving it back into the player manager later on. When in reality, we could just go about it making the player here and shoving the player into the PM. All right, we can make the player here and then shove it into the PM instead of kind of doing all these weird mismatch stuff. So we can have something more coherent. Additionally, you can see client thread here is not a method for this class. It's just a function tied to this class. Again, the terminology is methods are going to be having self here, and functions don't have self. This doesn't have self, so it's not really necessarily tied at all to this. So we want to tie it to it. All right, we want to be citing these items. So we may need to now go and rewrite some of this logic again, and that's okay. Rewriting, also refactoring, is something that happens sometimes. All right. Sometimes it's because you want to do an overhaul and make things 20 million times better. And sometimes it was just an insight initially. All right. Not always an insight initially, because if you wanted to, just make a simple server, great. And then it exploded in popularity. And now you want to make it something else. You may have to refactor it. And that's not because it was really short-sighted when initial creation. It just wasn't supposed to be something more than that. All right. Just depends. Okay, so let's go back to the server here. We can change this instead so our player gets created immediately, maybe on this line right here. All right, and when our player gets created here on our line, we could immediately pass it the client and give it that ID. All right, we can give it its own unique ID. Again, this kind of shows maybe this should all be done in the player management. All right, but we'll go about this step right now. Then later on, like one more function down here, we could then do the making a client thread logic right here, which would be something like player dot, I guess client thread or whatever we want to call it. All right. So let's go ahead and show that, start doing that refactor here. So we don't need that thread up front anymore, so we can get rid of that. We can keep thread right here because we still are going to be assigning a thread to the player. It can be just none initially, that's fine. We're going to want the ID and the connection initially, all right? Yeah, we're going to keep it like that. So right here, we can then instead say that, get rid of this and say that we're going to be creating a new player. And that's going to be equal to player. And it needs the, oh, perfect. Filled out right there. So it's going to take the ID for that player and the clients, right? And the client. Then right after that, we want to create the thread for this player. So we can go ahead and say, make a function in here, basically going to wrap this function. This is going to be, instead of client thread, we're going to just call this our run, I guess, because it's the main running logic. Should we call it the run? Or maybe the wrapper should be called the run. Yeah, we're going to start singing in here. Wait, is the music even going on? Oh, big oofs. Let me turn the music back on. There we go. All right. I thought it felt a little quiet in here. All right. So let's go ahead and chug. Oh, whoops. Let's go ahead and chug along here. Let's see here. So I'm just getting stuck on terminology here. Run. And for this, run no longer needs the connection because the connection is going to be given. The map, the ID is already a part of this. So we can go and change some of these to self.id, and the client is going to be self.client. Except it's not just called C, it's called, connection. This is going to be self.connection. This one's going to be self.connection. And we need self right here at the beginning of run. So that way all this stuff is happy. This is not typed. That's why we're seeing these go white. So let's go ahead and add the typing right here. Not quite. Oh, it's because connection isn't connected right here. Now the typing should, yeah, the typing should infer. I don't know why it's not. It just says, oh, it says something right there. Perfect. So that typing inferred. Perfect. This one, since it's none right here, we definitely want the typing to work later on. So let's say threading thread right here. So that way that threading, that stuff works. And we want definitely this one to be called run. And maybe another one called spawn. Def spawn. So the spawn one will spawn the thread, and the run logic is going to be the main logic for running. I wanted to see what it... I want to see how smart it was going to be there. Alright, so we got the map. So this is going to be the blank default map. In here we need to basically just do this logic. We don't need to do the PM connection. So we're going to do that. We're going to have it start, and we can go ahead and this is going to be equal to self.thread. This will be self.start. There we go. So spawn is going to spawn our thread. And this is going to be run. Run needs the map. Alright. So, again, what I was saying is spawn is going to spawn the player onto the map, which is going to start the thread. Again, the naming of this maybe not the best. I'm not the best namer in the world, to be honest, you guys. But this pretty much is just going to spin that thread, that same logic we had right here, which pretty much we just copied and pasted right here. So now in here, we're going to be calling, instead, from our player.spawn. There we go. And we gotta put the map in there. So the player is going to spawn All right, and once the player spawns, that will create a new thread, and the thread is going to execute this run function, which is going to be effectively our main function for this player's logic. All right. And then we just need to add the connection here. Instead of all three of these little items, we're just going to add the player to the player manager. So that means we need to edit the player manager a little bit in here. So this is going to be a dictionary of players. In here, we just want player. And we're going to be just adding the player. There we go. So now we just change that logic there. And whammo bammo, we are pretty much golden. And this is in a more high quality state, right, than before. Again, you could have kept it as it was before, and that would have worked pretty much fine to a certain extent. Depending on how you want to go about your future additions, you may run into a couple issues. This future-proofs things a little bit more because now it's cleaned up and segregated into nice little chunks of code. And again, I personally think the last final bestest form would be to add more logic to the PM. So the PM is what originally does some of this spinning up, but that I guess is for more of a challenge for you. If you also like that idea or find certain things you want to do, it would be easier if the player manager worked that way. The last thing to do is kind of test what we just did and see if that even works. Let me close all these terminals. I'm going to cd game server, and then we're going to do Python server, and we're going to open a new tab. That's running right there is a good start. And then we're going to cd into the game server, and then we're going to Python client, and looks like everything's working. All right, let's do another client just to see. And that changed. Ooh-wee. One little issue here is that it is saying -1 every single time now. All right, and if you can see that, let me go ahead and do it again. -1. So that is a current bug that we see here. But besides that, everything else is looking quite good. So we can see right here maybe what's causing the -1 bug. Did we change anything for the PM logic? No, that should be still working because we've already tested that before. So let's go to the player. That's what's going on. Our ID is hard-coded in here. We're not taking the ID, so let's change that to ID, the actual value that we're passing through. And now our bug has been fixed. So if I close that and open a new terminal, cd into game server, and we do Python server here and press enter, and then we do our client and say something, we should see there's -2. We do it again, we should see -3. There we go. So everything now is worked through. We fixed that little bug. Things are looking beautiful. They're going smooth. All right, they're going very, very smooth. We clean things up, we organize a little bit more, we're adding some structure into what used to be very unstructured. It worked, but it was unstructured and it would have been very hard to maintain as we continue further. And that's the important thing here with using your classes and using your folders and your files. All right, it's to keep structure to it. None of it's required. You can do one large file if you want it. It's going to be very, very ugly and hard to maintain. So that's the important thing here. So let's go to our README, make player class. I'd say that has been completed. And then we can go ahead and quickly, I think, get this over with. Before moving on to these last ones, I think tomorrow we should be able to do at least 2, if not 3 of them tomorrow. And then the day after that, we'll finish up. And we'll take maybe one more day to do any additional demonstrations in regards to because like I said for our race conditions and our deadlock. If we don't already hit it, we should definitely show a deadlock example here, and the race conditions we should definitely show them for the command section here. We'll see when we get to it. All right, so before moving forward, let's go ahead and do a git commit, shall we? And this, y'all gotta tell me when this. I forgot to turn down the desktop audio. Y'all gotta let me know. All right. if it's super super loud like that. All right, so let's go ahead and do git add all, git commit, and let's just say here that we made the migrated client thread into player. Oof. All right, close that, git push. Additionally, we don't have a need for this client thread file anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. All right, this may cause some issues for the import statements that were importing it, so let's go ahead and remove that. And I don't think we had any more of those, so let's go ahead and just quickly test our server before we move on. I'm going to close that one. Python server, running server. Let's go ahead and cd game Python client. All right, looks good, looks good. Let me run it one more time. Now, you'll see right now all this testing we're doing. And it doesn't seem that difficult at first, but as we continue on here and our program gets more and more complicated and bigger and more robust, this testing will get longer and longer and longer, especially if we keep doing it in a manual state. The testing per se is really easy. I just run it, I expect a certain output, I get that certain output, the test was successful. You know what's really good at doing monotonous tasks over and over again? That's right, programming. All right, you can build scripts to analyze and test your scripts, right? Scripts for scripts. Testing is something that's very important, and everyone says it's important, but a surprising amount of people don't implement tests at all, like especially at a very high-end enterprise level, which you would expect more, but whatever. There is a whole suite of testing libraries out there for pretty much any language that will allow you to build tests for your programs. We do not test you on testing libraries or testing logic. I highly recommend, just because we don't test you on it and aren't saying it's required, doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking into it yourself and maybe using it potentially religiously. There are lots of good videos on YouTube on how to learn how to use things like PyTest, or if you want to use a different language like Golang, C, whatever, the testing libraries for those, right? Go check them out and go start using them, see how they are, see how they feel, because you may have to write tests. Pretty much, it's easier than you think. It's just functions, all right, with some logic in it. But look, it just sounds scary at first. Go check it out. All right, go check it out. So, did we test this? I think we did. Yep. So everything's good. We need to do another commit because we did make a minor change of deleting that file and updating our server here. So let's go ahead and do a git add all. Let me go and do a git status here just to make sure the delete was added, because sometimes when you do a git add all, the deletes don't really get added. You might have to do a git remove and then the name of the file that you deleted. All right, kind of a bug. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to know when or why it does and why it doesn't sometimes. So let's go ahead and do git add all. We already did git add all. So let me go ahead and do a git commit here. And removed old client code. Client connect code. And let's go ahead and do a git push. And what branch are we on here? This is the git status. This is our player branch. So let's go back to our README and see what we need to do next. Remove players that are disconnected from the map. Now, like we said before, we kind of have that logic a little bit. All right, a little bit. That's this right here. All right, where we show up on the map and then later on we kind of just set ourselves to 0. All right, we set ourselves to 0. This works. This works. It is ran on the server side, so even though it's called player, it's not like the actual player is dictating this. It's the server that's dictating this. It may be more appropriate for the player management to handle when a player spawns and despawns off the map. I think with our quick and dirty approach that we're going right now, this should work fine. The only issue right now is the spawn coordinates. If our user later on is moving around, the spawn coordinates will not be correct later on when we need to despawn or remove ourselves per se. So what we can do instead is maybe make some new variables in here, and we don't have to, again, we don't have to switch branches right now because we're already on the get status. We're already on the player branch, so making additions to the player just makes sense here. We want to make maybe some variables here for maybe self dot current coordinates, right? So where are we currently are, right? Where we currently are. This definitely should not be a tuple because this will be changing a lot. We're going to just do an array, which is going to be our X and Y axis. You could also use dictionary and literally call it X and Y. Or you can make two variables here called X and Y, or you can make another class called coordinates that have X and Y and maybe some other stuff. There's a lot of things you can do here. Let's just go simple right now and say current chords. And for our spawn chords here, that's going to be equal to the coordinates that we make, our spawn chords. And we'll go and set that to our current chords. And then for this, we can just change it to current chords. And this one will change to current chords, except we need current chords, self.current chords, and change all these, and this, and this, and this. There we go. So now we're using the same logic. We're getting our initial spawn coordinates, which is going to be this. And then after we spawn in, we're going to place ourselves. So I guess this is a part of the spawn additionally. And then later on, when we disconnect, right, when we're closing our connection, we're disconnecting from the server, we're going to make this thread also remove us from the map, all right, setting it back to 0. All right, and it's going to be doing that based off our current coordinates, which was different than the logic before, which is spawn coordinates. Again, doesn't make too much sense right now, but it's future-proofing us, so when our player can move around, we don't have to worry about them despawning the wrong spot, right? Because it's going to go based off wherever we currently are, right? Wherever we currently are, which means we have now successfully finished up this spot right here. So we can go and put an X on this one. So let's go ahead and do a git add, git commit, modified to modified player to handle spawn and despawn based on current chords. All right, we'll go ahead and git push that up. Alrighty, so quick review. We just nailed player class today, made some modifications to player management, and we just made sure we were golden on the remove players. Tomorrow we'll continue our venture here. Is this spacing on these ones wrong? No, they're working. Wait, why is these ones not? Oh my. On the Mac, VS Code did. Wait, I thought we fixed this so the preview looked nice. It works on the Mac. It's not working on the. I hate this sometimes. All right, I hate this sometimes. We can look on the GitHub and see if it's working correctly. But tomorrow we're going to keep track of players on a map. So we're already arguably doing this. This is where the spawn logic, again, depends on how you want to do it. But maybe it might be better the player management does that, so you don't spawn on top of people. Or maybe that's what you're okay with, being able to spawn on top of people. All right. This again goes into how exactly you want to do your game. So we'll tackle this tomorrow, and then keep all the user info persistent to a file, so we can quickly do that by utilizing pickle. All right, because pickle is the shortcut for saving everything in a perfect state. So we'll use pickle to save everything in a potentially perfect state to a file, so we can have our players continue on later on. And maybe we'll get to these extra ones right here. When we do get to these extra ones right here, that's when we'll be also having to return back to the client so we can be able to execute those commands, right? Be able to execute those commands. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns before we end today's lesson? As always, if you are a Patreon or Discord premium member, I'm going to add some documentation to this and go ahead and drop it into the supporters chat so you guys can pick up from where we left off and also have the extra docs. I'm gonna wait another 30 seconds or so to see if there's any questions that roll in. If not, that's all I got for you guys. All right, sweet. That's all I got for you guys for today. If you do have any other questions after the stream, make sure you ask in the 100 Days of Rootkit chat on the Discord, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next one.